My name is David Votipka. I'm the creative director on Star Trek Bridge Crew.
David, what I played today was very impressive. You guys had such a variety of missions, from stealth to tactical to a lot of different ones. Kind of go over the missions that you're showing here today.
Yeah, so the missions range. The first mission in the story campaign is an introductory mission. It eases the crew into scanning and flying the ship and doing different objectives. And then there's a surprise at the end, which I'm not gonna say. I'll let the players discover it. And then the missions continue to sort of introduce the players gradually into the game. But the second mission of the game is what we've shown at E3, a variation of that, where it ramps up pretty quickly. You get combat going in there, and you're balancing between transporting and saving people in escape pods, between bringing up your shields and defending yourself against Klingons. Following that is a completely different flow and pace of mission, which is a stealth mission where you're trying to avoid detection and use some of the intrusion features that the Aegis has to take out communications of Klingon network sensors and so on. So we really want to try and have a sort of different pace and variety among the missions. Then we also showed the original bridge in our ongoing voyages mode, which is a randomized mission generator. We played a defend mission, which is more of you have some allied ships and it's a little more combat based. You're helping them under siege. But then there's also a recover mission where you're looking for a fugitive, and it kind of mixes up searching and exploring and a little bit of combat.
You talk about the emphasis on cooperation and co-op play, because it seems like the entire game's based around all the players working together.
It is. I mean, you can actually play the game 1 to 4 players. As a captain, you can control crew bots, as we call them, NPCs, or you can have 2 players, you and a friend, or up to 4 players. But ultimately, we've designed the stations to really rely upon one another. So for example, when taking the ship to warp, Helm needs to rely on engineering. It's kind of a 2-station process. Helm's got to line the ship, engineer's going to charge the coils, and they work together. The engineer really ties into a lot of different stations by, for example, giving power. It affects the phaser range of tactical and so on. So because of, in social VR, the ideal situation is everybody's kind of around the table looking at each other, talking to each other. But in Star Trek, that's obviously not the case. And you're focused on your panel and your duty and the view screen and so on. So in order to keep that social interaction, we really wanted to design the stations to simulate conversation between the players.
Can you talk about some of the challenges when creating the missions and how, even though they're similar, they're also vastly different? I mean, the stealth mission was a million times different than the first mission I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, combat is kind of the easy approach in game design and a space game design, but it's obviously not what Star Trek is all about. Like, that's part of Star Trek, but there's so much more to it. So we knew from day one that we wanted to focus on additional objective types and mission types. And it's the harder road to do successfully and to keep all 4 stations engaged at all times. But I have to say, like, when you play the stealth missions, and the next mission in the campaign that you didn't get to play yet, you'll get to play upon release, is really intense as well. Especially, you're really trying to hide and run for your life, and it's probably my favorite mission in the game. So yeah, that sort of different level and style of gameplay, even when it's sort of quiet, but you know that if you're detected, it's going to be a big problem, adds a lot of attention, and we've seen good social interaction with people in those missions too.
Will there be different ships you can crew, like Klingon, Romulan, Vulcan?
Not yet. So far it's the Aegis and the Enterprise, and we'll have to see down the road what we get to add.
Do you have a favorite position on the crew you'd like to play as?
It's a tough question. It actually depends on the mission, really. I do enjoy captain, and it's actually really fun to mix, 2 players, like you and a friend, and 2 crew bots, where you're actually a lot busier that way. You're giving orders, and then you're switching stations with the other player. Probably captain and tactical, I'd say, are my favorite.
What's the hardest position in the game to play, in your opinion?
I think it actually depends on the mission. Tactical usually has the most going on, so in terms of multitasking, it's the busiest. But in the mission I was just referring to, where you're under siege and running away, like, engineer is crazy busy because there's constantly repairing and rerouting power and trying to keep the ship functional so the crew can escape and survive. Usually engineer is the most straightforward, but it really depends on the situation.
Why do you think it's taken so long to get a Star Trek game like this out to the public?
Well, it's kind of like what I said before, is the technology really never existed to make a game where you could actually be on the bridge. first, and secondly, and more importantly, I think, is the social aspect. Like when in VR, when we network your actual body, how you're moving, and when you look at another player who's moving and it's actually their real world body movements, your brain immediately knows that's another human being, and like that level of social presence just wasn't possible without VR before. So it's really a perfect brand for social VR, so we're excited to get it out there and let players experience it.
And the last question, or probably the most important question, is favorite Star Trek series and why?
Well, I started watching the original series, so I think I have to say, that'll always have a special place, but I also grew up watching TNG, and we get so many requests for TNG of the game as well, so it's kind of a toss-up between those two for me.
So maybe next generation DLC down the line?
That'd be awesome. We'll see.
Awesome. When does the game come out? What platforms will it be on?
Comes out on PSVR, Rift, and Vive, and it's crossplay between all three as well.
What's the date, though?
Oh, it comes out on May 30th.